Oconee County Board of Zoning Appeals for September 28th, 2020. To order, please. Let me give a brief statement of how we're going to proceed today. For each individual issue before us, we'll have a statement of the proposal. There'll then be a presentation by the applicant, typically a 5-minute limit. There'll be a presentation by an opponent. The opponents want to say something for 5 minutes, and then the applicant will have a final word to say. And then we'll consider the issue and bring it to a vote. I want to emphasize, everyone will have a chance to speak. Anyone who's here, please do come up and say something if you want to. The reason I'm saying that is 2 or 3 times ago, we had a hearing, and there were pros and cons, and we decided the issue, and a gentleman came up afterward and said, "Hey, you didn't think of this." Folks, we're not here to think of things. We're here to respond to input from a variety of sources. So if you have something to say, please do when we have the opportunity, do come up and say something. Okay, minutes. Last meeting was May 25th of 2020. We've all had the minutes before us. Are there any?
I move we accept the minutes.
A second.
Any discussion? Any changes? All in favor of accepting the minutes as written?
Aye.
Minutes are approved, 5 to 0. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, the first issue before us today is a special exception hearing for application number SE 20-02, construction of a new communication tower. The applicant is applying to construct a 250-foot tall communication tower located at 224 Highway 107 in Mountain Rest. The parcel is TMS 093-00-01-049. Mr. Secretary, do you have anything further to add to the statement of the issue?
No, sir. Mr. Yates is here to discuss the matter on behalf of the applicant. Where's the
Okay.
applicant?
Mr. Yates.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Jonathan Yates. It's been many years, as I was talking with Adam. I used to come here a lot, but that was back in the days when Art Holbrooks was the planner, and then on to Josh. So I'm glad to be back in Oconee County. I'm particularly glad to be off the coast, as brief as it is during hurricane season. I'm from Charleston County, and we're on our 31st year since Hugo. Hurricanes hit us every 30 years, so I'm a little nervous. So I'm glad to be safe in the South Carolina mountains. First and foremost, and I'll be brief, I have not been here in a number of years. Adam was incredible to work with. I got the same incredible treatment that Art and Josh had given me. Because I hadn't been here a while, I asked Adam about 55 stupid questions. He never laughed at me. What we're doing tonight, what we're hoping to do tonight, this is for AT&T. AT&T, and I had a good time this afternoon visiting the property because nobody could get a hold of me. My phone was a paperweight. What AT&T plans to do is a 250-foot wireless facility, very important to AT&T as their coverage is non-existent in the area. The facility will provide wireless, voice, and broadband, very important. You saw where our State House last week, they're moving as best they can to try to improve broadband throughout the state. We had a real crisis this spring in the state when a lot of students were sent home and it didn't work. In Charleston County alone, they had to take school buses, take them out into neighborhoods so the kids could get some kind of internet access. Not only is this going to be for wireless voice and broadband, this is also going to be what we call a FirstNet site for AT&T. FirstNet is the nationwide system, the First Responder Network Authority. I'm not picking on the federal government, but it shows you how quickly they work. One of the big things they determined after the terrorist attacks of 9/11 is we needed better communication between various law enforcement, emergency, and fire folks. Well, it took them about 16 years, but now we're rolling it out. What FirstNet does, it creates a fast lane for law enforcement, EMS, and fire. It also has a host of other features, location devices where they can find someone they're looking for, video sharing where they can send a drone or say a robot into an area, get communication back to the people in the area and to the operations center. and some really neat stuff down the road, what we call wearables, where, for instance, a fireman will have certain software built into his suit, and if he's getting too hot, they can pull him out. So FirstNet site, so important for AT&T. The property in question, and she apologizes, is owned by Margaret Good, a great lady. She is quarantining in Ohio with her niece, so she could not make it. But to give you a little background on the property has been in her family about 100 years. Her grandfather was Dr. William Craig, and for many years, he had apple orchards on this property till World War II, when it took the trees down. Since then, it's just been able to grow back with an incredible mix of pine, hardwood, just a beautiful piece of property, but exactly where AT&T wanted to be. To give you a feel, before I started asking my friend Adam a bunch of stupid questions, we had a lot of work to do before we came here tonight. First thing, AT&T had to have the facility approved by the FAA. FAA issued a determination of no hazard air navigation. It is located approximately 18.4 miles from the Coney County Regional Airport. We then had to go to South Carolina, the State Historic Preservation Office, SHPO. They made a finding that no National Register sites or landmark sites would be affected by the tower. We then, and this sometimes throws people, they think we also had to go, before I could come do business with Adam, this site was reviewed by 12 Native American nations. Any Native American nation or tribe that either lived in Oconee County or migrated through Oconee County had to approve it. And it was reviewed by the Catawba Indian Nation, the Cherokee Nation, Crow Creek Sioux Tribe, Eastern Band Cherokee Indians, Eastern Shawnee Tribe of Oklahoma, Flandreau Santee Sioux Tribe, Kealigi Tribal Town, Muskogee Creek Nation, Prairie Island Community, the Shawnee, the top local tribal town, and the United Ketowa Band of Cherokee Indians. Oh,
If you need more, do you need more time?
I might just need a minute or two.
That's fine, with the board's
And
permission,
the
is that okay?
purpose of this is to try to give you a feel,
That's fine, I'm just trying to hold to the rules, that's all.
give you a feel for the work we had to do. The facility itself will be located on Margaret's property. We had the facility designed by South Carolina PE, Robert E. Beacom. Mr. Beacom designed it to the ANSI TIA 228 standard of 107 mile per hour wind and 30 mile per hour inch and a half radial ice. That is the standard for Oconee County. He has also put into the design, in a catastrophic unlikely situation, it will fall within the radius of its height of 250 feet. So again, what we're trying to do, and sorry I get a little long-winded, the real purpose tonight is to bring essential wireless infrastructure for voice, broadband, and FirstNet capacity to this part of the county. It doesn't have it now. That puts you behind. That puts that part of the county behind. The great thing about wireless infrastructure, unlike power, water, or sewer, where you have to run every linear foot, AT&T can find a location and roughly cover a 3-mile radius. That is the plan with this facility. That is what this facility can do. Very briefly, and I will be brief, I promise. In looking through your section 3872 special exception criteria, are we in accordance with the comprehensive plan? If you look at the 2020 plan, one of the primary goals, bringing broadband to the county. We meet all the requirements of Article 4 communication towers. Is it in the interest of the county, convenience of the county, and public welfare? Absolutely. I do not have the data, and I apologize I don't, for Oconee County, but in my home county of Charleston County, 84% of 911 calls to our Charleston County Consolidated Dispatch come from a wireless device. Why? The phone is where you need it. When you need it, you have an emergency. In addition, statewide, 55% of households are now wireless only. This section also asks, are we suitable in terms of highway traffic, parking, and safety to protect streets from undue congestion or hazard? It takes about 60 days to build. After that, AT&T only does this about 8 to 10 times per year. I'm here for any and all questions, and I hope I got inside my 5 minutes, sir.
You're fine, thank you. Mr. Chapman, do you have anything to add to the, Jimmy Forrest?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, now, we'll entertain comments from interested parties?
I have one question.
Sure.
Did anybody check to see if there are any private airports within that particular area?
Yeah, that is part of the review, and again, with the FAA review. And
Like,
again, it
for example,
came-
like farmers and so forth that might be flying out of their pasture?
Yeah, we still were issued by the FAA that determined no hazard. Thank you, sir.
Any other board questions? Okay, I have 3 people signed up to comment. Mr. Mike Ahern.
Thank you guys for having me. One of the first things I'd like to say, the staff at the office has been very helpful with getting us information and everything. Well, my name's Mike Ahern. I live right at Forest Road at the intersection of Highway 107. And where this tower is going to be built, it's about 600 feet from the front of my house. It's 300 feet from my property line. So it's directly across from one piece of my property, 600 feet from the house. So I have a clear view of this tower from every window in the front of my house and the side of my house. And very briefly, my Verizon phone works just fine at my house, and we have internet. So the thought that we don't have anything up there is just not true. So for me, my concern is lost property value. Everywhere I look, I got a 250-foot tower that's jammed up against the highway. I get a permanent, unnecessary eyesore. And my other problem with this is loss of night sky due to lighting. Now, I know these guys have submitted this to the FAA on the correct distance from the airport. However, once that permit is issued, it has to be resubmitted to the FAA. They look at a circular, it's called an advisory circular, and it's standards for marking and lighting. If the tower is over about 150, 200 feet, it's going to be lighted 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This tower is on a mountain ridge, it's near a military training route, and it's also near what's known as the Victor Airway. It's within 2 nautical miles, so it will be lighted. So it's going to be an eyesore day and night. So we can expect that. And you just ask the folks on Whetstone Road to get to watch a flashing light through their window 24 hours a day from the current Verizon tower, which is why that tower is lighted, by the way. The other thing is, it's Highway 107 is a scenic highway by SCDOT. We got all that timberland spread all the way across the county, all the way up that road. Why is this thing being built 250 feet from a scenic highway so it can be seen from Oconee State Park to Stump House Tunnel? There's got to be a better place to put this thing. And to me, I understand we need a tower. I don't have a problem with that. But here's the thing. Ms. Good is getting a nice little check from this thing, as are our lawyers from Charleston, as is the company from New Jersey. Well, my thing is, great. She owns 2 36-acre tracts that go back off the road almost 4,000 feet. It's got a power line right away paralleling it, and it also has an access road right on down. You want to build a tower, get it about 2,000 feet off the highway where it'll be out of sight, and it'll still provide service for places like Lake Becky, Lake Cherokee, and farther up the mountain. Or AT&T can just work a little harder and find a better place to put this thing. Not the first place they can find that's jammed up on a highway right there. So do my neighbors a favor. Now, like I said, it's not true we don't have service up there. We have service. We have UVerse. Part of the problem with UVerse is AT&T is such a poor provider. They don't maintain the lines, and they won't use the fiber optic channels that have been run up. So that's the other part of the problem. So if they're so concerned about our communication, upgrade your service. I hope that was quick enough.
It's fine, thank you, sir.
I used to do this all the time. It's been a while. Thank you.
Mr. Charlie R. Price?
How are you this evening? my wife and I, we support the tower. They're on, not necessarily in that particular spot, but just somewhere in that location. It is an AT&T tower, and Friday marks a year since our youngest daughter was killed up there on that mountain. The Verizon tower didn't pick her up. The AT&T tower, we believe, would, especially with, an emergency network, an emergency first responders network that's tied in with it, we would have been able to locate her instead of strangers finding her 50 hours later. So I understand this mountain needs some service, and I understand that, there's a Verizon tower up there, but our beliefs are is that if that had been a good, viable AT&T network up there, maybe such as this tower, when missing persons was filed for, that AT&T might have been able to locate her because Verizon couldn't. And granted, I understand about the scenic highway, and it is beautiful up there. So, if we need to find another place for it, in that general area, just as long as one's up there. We need one that can reach out and touch the people and find people before there's any more missing ladies up there in Oconee County, much less in that area. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Price. Bob Craig.
Yeah, thank you. My cousin is Peggy Good, the landowner of the property, and we're in favor of having the tower up there as well. Although it is on Highway 107, a scenic highway, it's only about 300 feet or 400 feet from a very large electrical station that's right there on the side of the road. I wouldn't call that the most beautiful, contentious place to claim that we're impacting its beauty in any way, as we're already close to those things that the community needs, which is power and now a tower. My brother sent me a letter today. He's also a landowner up there. I do own adjacent land to Peggy's, but not adjacent to the parcel in question here. My brother is a landowner with land adjacent to it, and he's in full support of the tower as well. So, as the Craigs have done in the past, we've put our land up and made it available for the betterment of the community. And so we ask that you approve the tower. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Craig. I said thank you.
Okay, thought you had a question.
Is there anyone else who'd like to have input on this issue? Anyone else?
Actually, if I may, I did not sign up. Can I speak?
Please come up and state your name, please. What is your name, please, sir?
My name is Ernie Lombard.
Lombard?
L-O-M-B as in boy, A-R-D.
Got it, thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. Ladies and gentlemen, or lady and gentlemen of the Oconee County Board of Zoning Appeals, thank you for your time and dedication to all of the citizens of Oconee County. As I stated, my name is Ernie Lombard. I reside in Mountain Rest, and I am also a property owner on Highway 107 in Mountain Rest. In an effort to maximize profits, AT&T has proposed to construct a telecommunications tower on scenic Highway 107. The proposed height, as we have heard, of this tower is approximately 250 feet, which must be approved by you all, the Oconee County Board of Zoning Appeals. According to the South Carolina Department of Transportation's website, Highway 107 is defined as the Falling Waters Scenic Byway. The website further states, and I quote, "This scenic byway begins just north of the town of Walhalla in Oconee County on South Carolina 107 and goes northward to the North Carolina state line. Since it mostly is located in the Sumter National Forest, there is little development and lots of recreational opportunities. Trails, parks, and other sites are located along the route. I challenge you all to consider not only the supposed increase in local customer base with the construction of the telecommunications tower, but to also consider the visual impact that will be created. In the words of Psalms chapter 121, verse 1, I will lift up mine eyes unto the hills, from which cometh my help. I am in favor of leaving it that way and not changing it to, I will lift up mine eyes unto the hills, from which cometh my telecommunications. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lombard. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Yes, ma'am.
My name is not, I do not sign.
It's quite all right. Everyone gets a chance.
Thank you.
And have your name, please, ma'am.
My name is Lee, L-E-E, Ahern, A-H-E-R-N. And, see if I can do this without being emotional. I have lived for 27 years at the junction where the proposed tower is going in. My heart goes out to the Price family who lost their daughter. I did hear them say that they were not against the tower and that communication was needed, but they were against where it was being put. I've lived at that address for almost 30 years. I love it up there. I chose that place to live. Our house is very well maintained, cared for, landscaped, and loved. My husband traveled for the 30 years that we've been married. I stayed home because I loved it here, and I taught at a local elementary school, and I think our county is the greatest. The substation that was mentioned earlier is not 250 feet into the air. To the best of my knowledge, it's not lit up day and night. It is there. It is not going away, but it's nothing that I see unless I'm out picking up trash on the sides of the road. Whereas the proposed tower would be visible night glare and light, and I'm not against the tower. I see the purpose of progress and telecommunications, but I think AT&T needs to look harder for a more suitable place than right on the edge of the road. I also, very quickly, spent a number of years working at Oconee State Park in visitor services and would tell people that I was lucky enough to work where people save their vacation days to come and to play and to hike and to see the waterfalls. So I urge you to consider all the facts that I've mentioned, as well as everyone else. Thank you for your time.
Yes, Ms. Ahern, thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Okay, have an opportunity for the applicant to make some comments.
And I thank everyone for coming. Couple things very quickly. What AT&T does in every case, and in this case, we study your local rules, We study the state and federal rules, and you see we've been approved by all federal and state agencies. The toughest part of my job, and I've been doing this since 1995, wherever we put a tower, what does a tower do? A tower works for a several mile area. The toughest part of my job is there are always folks next to the tower. So we try to do our best job. In this case, it will have lights. It will have air nav lights, but we use an upscale lighting package with a deflection device. What the deflection device does, the light is set up to the horizon for the pilot to see it. The effect on the ground is equivalent to a 60-watt patio bulb. There's cheap lighting, there's good lighting. We do the good lighting. This location is very important as AT&T lays out their network, particularly for the First Responder Network Authority. It is essential. We need to be in that location. Take a look at Article 4. Did I miss anything? I met the height, I met all the setbacks, and the toughest part again, there's always someone next door. What I can assure these folks, if we're allowed to do it, they will see the top of the tower. But we found with most folks, you see it the first day or so, just like those power lines. You don't look at them every day. They're there, they become part of your peripheral vision. We will not have trucks going in and out, only about 8 or 10 times a year. We will maintain the site beautifully. That is our policy. What will we give back? Wireless voice, wireless broadband for everyone in the area, and the FirstNet service. So much in life is a trade-off, and we're not asking to take from folks. If you look, we did some photo simulations on this. As we went down Forest Road, you really can't see it. You have this incredible tree cover all there. Will you see it from points of 107? Yeah. I'm from the city of Charleston. Throughout the city, every third house is a National Register property. They're historic landmarks. Towers are there. Power lines are there. We have to bring the 21st century into the rest of our world, but we have to do it in the best way possible. You know, one time down in low country, I thought I was going to get away without having a next door neighbor. I was on about a 30,000 acre paper company track, and I said, there's not going to be a next door neighbor to this. Well, right at the end of the hearing, no one had spoken, and this good old boy came up, and he had torn up overalls, torn up ball cap, and he said, I poached that property on the weekends, and I'm afraid the lights might scare the deer away. Thank y'all. Thank y'all.
Thank you, sir. Okay, before we actually get into considering this, does the board have any questions? Board has-
Is there any merit at all to moving that to a different location on there? Can they still do that and achieve their purpose?
Unfortunately, with what we're trying to do, it's very location specific there as the network comes out, so we really don't have a lot of luxury. We were fortunate that Miss Margaret Good's property worked right where AT&T wanted to be, and she allowed us to go on it. She allowed us, pull it back from the street. She didn't make us go right on the street. Allowed us to pull it back. And then you have to look at her property. Like I said, her grandfather, Dr. William Rhett Craig, had the apple orchards there, but that was all done in World War II. Since then, it's grown back with limited timber cruises, so you have an incredible growth. You have her 36-acre piece up there, 36 acres next to it going closer to Lake Becky. And except for her RV pad, you just got plenty of trees, which help hide it. Will the tower be completely invisible from everywhere? No. Do the trees help? Yeah. As tower sites go, most often what I'm dealing with is we have a farmer's property where he has maybe, half the acreage in pasture and all the trees cleared. Here you have all those trees to hide it. I'm not saying it's going to be invisible, but it really, really helps in this case, the tree cover. And if we pulled it back further, then I get it close to Lake Becky, and I'll meet a new group of people in here. That's the sort of give and gab. But with the Aherns, with everyone, we always work with them. I work with them. Before I leave tonight, I'm going to give them my business card. If they ever have a problem, they hear noise, which you won't hear, but anything they hear, if the lights aren't working, they can call me 24/7, except for Sunday morning when I'm in services. But we work hard to come into the community and try to be part of the community.
I understand, but my question really was, could it physically be moved and still achieve its goal?
It would, not much of a move. We'd need to stay on that property about where we are. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. To achieve.
In other words, you wouldn't be able to get the same coverage or the...
Yeah, to make our network objectives, particularly for the FirstNet and our handoffs. Yes, sir. It's somewhat
Thank you.
site-specific. Yes, sir.
How many feet off the road is this tower?
This one is 266.
266, and it's basically got a height of 254, I read.
250 4-foot lightning rod, and with a 250-foot fall zone certified by Robert Beacom.
Okay. Mr. Chapman, big part of the issue here is service versus visual interference. Could we look at the pictures, please? Sure. And let everyone, we've all had these ourselves, but I'd like to look at these and see where in particular, for anyone who doesn't know, this is the pictorial representation that the company is required to do. You can see various locations here. You can see the site. You can see down at number 4 location. For instance, is right at 107 and 28. And what they do is take a picture of a balloon that was raised 250 feet, and then do a photo simulation of what the tower will look like from these various locations. Okay, so you're gonna have to help me out on where these are.
Sure, so this is one from Forest Road here, so I'll just flip back and forth from the map. So this is site 1 right here, and this is the picture from site 1 looking east, and the tower is, oh, it's right over here.
Right where the red arrow is, up in the upper left-hand
Yeah, it's
corner.
the red arrow.
You can barely see it on the main picture.
This is where it is there. So site 2 is closer down Forest Road, right, is that it? Yeah, this is, that's site 3.
That's not it.
This is site from view 2 here, and it's right here in the,
That's still almost 50, 70 yards down Forest Road. That's not where my house is. My house is farther up on the left.
Okay, I'm just trying to show you what we have done. That's all I'm trying to do, is just show you what
And
we've
just
done.
real briefly, remember, this is taken in early spring when the foliage is as thick as it can be.
Right. I've got to be careful here. I've given everyone an opportunity to speak from the audience that wants to. We may have specific questions, but please hold back.
I understand.
Thank you.
this is from the view 3 down at Laurel Hill. There's the tower, obviously. Let's see, site 4 is over here at the junction of 28 and 107. That should be right there. So there it is, right there.
As I would look here, also, you see in the foreground, you actually see electrical lines, telephone
Yeah.
lines and whatnot.
5 and 6 go further west. There's 4 still. This is 5. This is from the behind the fire station, I think, right? 5. This is from further up, so it is visible from here. Let's see where 7's at. That was 5 and 6, and then 7, 10 will go to Lakeside. That's weird. This is from Lake Becky Road, and here it is over here. 8 is at James Corner, so it's right there.
Oh, I see.
Those were right there. Is that?
It's not visible.
Oh, all right, it's that direction. Those are the 10 balloon sites they did.
Okay. Does the board have any questions about those various pictures? They need to see any more? Okay, we'll take this up for consideration then. We have 4 criteria that we have to consider, and here they are right here, before we render judgment. The first criteria is The request is in accordance with a comprehensive plan and consistent with the spirit, purposes, and the intent and specific requirements of this chapter to include the definition and intent of the district in which the special exception is being requested. I'd like to entertain a motion in the affirmative, please.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second it so we can get the discussion.
That's exactly what we need. Okay, is there any discussion?
My overall concern is that several years ago, we were in a similar situation on the side of Highway 11, and it being a scenic highway, and it was another tower that was an offload tower between two towers, and we voted it down because of basically that it was within that area of the scenic highway. That is my biggest concern. We, in essence, set a precedent next to the scenic highway.
Any other discussion? I guess I'd offer that this is the classic case with communication towers. You're trying to balance the need for communication and modern communication with the need to maintain the scenic beauty of Oconee County. And so that's kind of where we're tied up. I honestly don't think that previous decisions set a precedent for this board. This board can decide either way it wants to go, whatever we think is right.
And it does conform to the comprehensive plan as we understand it.
Yes, as I understand it, it does conform to the comprehensive plan. I guess, as I look at the pictures are not terribly bad. It could be a lot worse. But I understand folks' heartfelt comments about what the appearance is and what the appearance issues are. Okay, any other discussion on this item, on this issue, this criteria? Okay, we have a motion in the affirmative that it is in accordance with the comprehensive plan and so forth. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
1, 2, 3, 4. All opposed? Okay. It passes 4-1, Adam. Criteria number 2, that the request is in the best interest of the county, the convenience of the community, and the public welfare. I have a motion in the affirmative.
So
please.
moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion, please.
I think from a safety standpoint, it certainly applies as far as the community and the public welfare. There are some areas up there, I think some people had some good luck with Verizon's tower. Apparently, unfortunately, this family did not. So I think that it would definitely help having a tower up there. Now, if it's in that location or if it's somewhere else, but I think the towers would definitely be good for the public welfare, because you would have, in a case of emergencies, as the gentleman here was talking about, the first responders and being able to check on them. I think that's a no-brainer on that one. Definitely, I think that it meets that criteria.
Any other discussion?
I would say that it's certainly in the public interest and the interest of the county from the standpoint that as more and more people go with the smartphones in conducting business and so forth over that, it's got to benefit the overall county and particularly the community with which it serves.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Raise your hand. Yeah, 5-0, Adam. Okay, item number 3. The request is suitable for the property in question, designed and constructed and operated and maintained so as to be in harmony with and appropriate in appearance to the existing or intended character of the general vicinity. Could I have a motion in the affirmative, please?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, discussion.
I think this is the sticking point.
This is the crux of the issue.
Yeah, this is the sticking point. We have had towers in the past that we have seen that in areas such as this, they kind of made them look like trees. You know, we've had some towers before that, that came before us, and I feel sure y'all have probably done that in other areas where you don't have the aluminum pole going up. It's brown, it looks like a tree. They'll even put on some of the outlying areas of it, it looks almost like foliage out there. The ones I've seen look like pine trees for the most part. I don't know if that's something that may not help y'all at all with the lighting. I understand what you're saying there. But as far as the scenic, going to what you were talking about, the scenic highway, that may be an option that maybe some kind of compromise could be made on. I don't know. But I would, well, I mean, I won't cast my vote until you ask for a vote. But.
Any other comments? Let me ask, I don't think I'm terribly out of order. Is a stealth design an option?
Not really that height, and then we have to have the air nav lights. So again, here what we did is we did what we call the self-support option. So it's not the guy wire with the wires coming every which way. So the stealth is your sort of cleanest silhouette to get that height, and it would have the lights. And again, the stealth is designed to camouflage, and typically we do stealth when you don't have these kind of trees around it, that can hide the base. But here with the lights, we went with the self-support versus the guy, because it's the silhouette is less, you don't have the wires going every way. And again, with the lights, we will commit to the upscale lighting package with the deflection device. So the pilot can see it, but no one else can see it.
I would think if you made this look like a pine tree, it'd still be a pine tree sticking right up in here where you can see it. I'm not sure that's going to help much.
Yeah. 250 feet, that's almost a football field.
I think that the silhouette, when you look, at least from the pictures, when you look at the simulations, the silhouettes seem to be fairly minimized when you get to the upper part of it too. And is it that much different than looking at a telephone pole? I know it's higher, but it's still something that's not natural.
I still get back to consistency. And I know you guys weren't here for the previous vote, but the scenic highway is a scenic highway for a reason. And I understand that the community can benefit from certain things, but what about the scenic highway? Does the community not benefit from that as well? Does I know we're not supposed to consider home values, that's part of what we, of our guidelines. But I still just believe in consistency in the way we approach these kind of items. Because if we're all over the place and we vote this one in and we voted one out and then there's another one, I just don't think that's the right thing to do. And that's what all I have to say.
Sure. Well, but when it comes to the scenic highway, you go up 11, there's like gravel banks along the side of the road, there's boat dealerships, there's all kinds of commercial activity along that scenic highway. I don't think that something like this is necessarily any more intrusive than one of those type of applications.
And I guess it gets back to what your perspective of what's intrusive and what's not intrusive.
Yeah.
I just feel, and it may just be me, and that's fine, but I just feel that being consistent with our judgments, with our rulings, is something we need to do as a board. And I know we can't go back and rehash that out, and we've got different board members, but my stance is that I just don't think we need to be ruling one way on one scenic highway, ruling another. I think personally, 107 is more scenic than Highway 11. And I just don't think it fits in with the harmony of the community, 200 and how many ever feet off the road. I understand about the coverage because I've seen these before. It still doesn't cover all of Mountain Rest. And I'm just not for it. I believe in consistency.
I guess my feeling on consistency is I really don't think this board should be restricted by previous board's decisions. We have no idea what the situation was there, what the issues were. We certainly didn't consider it. There's just, precedent is one thing. I know you hear that term, but in this particular case, I think we're charged with looking at this situation in today's environment and running a decision based on that. We have no knowledge. I really have. I think I remember the one you're talking about, but I have no recollection or knowledge of what the situation was with that previous request.
The only thing I can add to that is that, we're becoming more and more technical every year that we go along, and we're going to have to start accepting, I think, some of these things to support the technology that the people are looking for.
Ms. Fowler, anything to say?
I lived at Mountain Rest for over 30 years, and when you have a flat tire and there's no phone service, it's scary.
Yep.
And just the safety side of it makes me want it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't. They don't want to look at it out their back door, but reality is that you've got to take into consideration your tourists as well as your locals and whether or not they can call for help when they need help.
Okay, this is a tough one. Anyone? Any other? Okay, let's call for vote. We have a motion and a second on this particular criteria. All in favor, say aye, please. Okay, we have 3 in favor. All opposed? 2 opposed. The criteria passes. Final criteria is the request suitable in terms of effects on highway traffic, parking and safety with adequate access arrangements to protect streets from undue congestion and hazards. Could I have a motion in the affirmative, please?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Original say how it could affect traffic. It's got a fall zone in case if something does happen. I think.
Traffic's not an issue on this, I think.
I agree. I think that's,
Move to
any other discussion? All in favor, we have a motion and second before us. All in favor, say aye, please. 5 in favor. No one opposed. Okay, all 4 criteria have been satisfied. Based on the evidence presented to the board, do I hear a motion that the proposed special exception be approved? So could I have a motion and a
So
second,
moved.
please? Have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion on the overall question? Okay, all in favor, please say aye. We have 4 approved, all opposed, 1 opposed. Okay, so the request is approved, and I thank everybody for your input. And I hope you understand the board considered both sides of this. I think we really tried to, and I do appreciate all you folks showing up to give us your input. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
One way, there's a room in it.
Yes. Okay, the second issue before the board is a variance request.
All right, Mr. Conlon. They're moving along.
I think we're going, yeah. Okay, item number 5, variance request for application number VA 20-4, 12.7-foot variance from a required 25-foot setback from a right-of-way for permitting an existing carport 510 Rainbow Road, Seneca 29678. The TMS is 241-01-01-001. Okay, Mr. Chapman, is there anything else that you have to state?
Nothing to add. Actually, yeah, no, I get, well, if I may. So Mr. Johnson was in contact with me, and he realized that the structure was already built. He was in contact with me. It was not something that his intent was to ask for it, and it did get built, and as soon as he realized it happened that day, he contacted us. I realized that you all drove out there and saw it. I would say that, you all look at it how you all choose to look at it. Mr. Johnson's been very much in contact with me about the issue, and he came to me with it. It wasn't a complaint-driven thing. It wasn't something that came out of any sort of argumentative anything. He stood, hey, something happened. So I just want to put that out there.
Okay, could you state your name, please?
I'm Brad Johnson.
Brad Johnson.
I am. I appreciate you guys doing what you guys do, and gals, because I know it is tough. And Vivian and Adam both have been a treat to work with. And I think that, so, cool. So this, just a little bit about this property. This property is Rainbow Road. And the highlighted area there is where the residence is. It's at the very end of Rainbow Road. The road, I think, ends somewhere in the middle or the first third of the property. It's a gravel road. It's measuring less than 600 feet in length from Hickory Lane. On the right-hand side of that property, or on the right-hand side of Rainbow Road, are 4 parcels. The first parcel, which fronts Hickory Lane, they're in approval, or they in agreement with what we're trying to do. The second property is Mr. Stevens. He resides in Florence. He comes up here quite often. The property that's adjacent to the subject property is vacant property. It's she says she may develop it one day, but it's been in her family for a long time. So the vacant property used to own the property to her right, and also the property that I have today. Across the street from the subject property is another vacant lot, about an acre, or about 7/10 of an acre, which is also not developed. And traveling back down towards Hickory, there is a metal building, a nice looking metal building, and then it goes down to one other parcel. So there's only 7 parcels on this stretch of road. Traveling further past my property, there's a 40-acre tract of land, and in order to get there, there's a large ravine. And if you could see just past the property, it's just a little tick, but there's a large ravine there that you'd have to cross to continue Rainbow Road if that were the case. Any questions on that? So the topography shows there's great topography on that property. The house sets to the right-hand side of that, down towards Hickory Lane. The right-hand side of the house is approximately 20 feet off the property line. The left-hand side of the house is about 25 feet off of that ravine. That ravine measures approximately 30 feet deep, 25 to 30 feet deep. But that ravine is no barrier to trees, so those trees jump that ravine. So this was a survey that was done prior to my purchase. And it shows that the property sits approximately 34 feet back from the, I guess, the easement. So here's where my mistake came in. This yellow part is the carport, and it is encroaching approximately 13 feet into that 25-foot easement. So this is obviously a front view. the bottom pictures there show the elevation changes. Right where the house starts, the elevation just drops down. And so you can see the profiles of how that addition looks. So this was taken after that tornado came through. And this is halfway between the neighbor's property and the subject property. And it's standing across the street, and you can see the home there, but that's prior to the structure. This is approaching the end of the Rainbow Road. This is after the trees and stuff are cleaned up. But to the right, the structure is still not being this view. So you can't see the structure that's now there today from the road unless you get right in front of the house. And this is obviously 2 properties down before us in front of Mr. Stevens' property. So that's the add-on that was put on prematurely. And you can see the elevation changes and topography issues that we'd have on the right-hand side of the road, or right-hand side of the house. And then obviously the same's on the left-hand side of the house. And again, more of the slope. So I stand before you to apologize for what happened and realize that it shouldn't have done that. But anyway, it is what it is, and so I'm here to take what's given to me. So again, I've talked to several of the people over there, well, a lot of them actually, and I mean, they're all, it's a great neighborhood. People are all out walking and talking and shaking hands. Well, I used to shake hands, not so much anymore. But of the 6 people that sent in comments, those 6 people own 12 of the properties up and down Rainbow Road and throughout most of that section of that neighborhood. I mean, that's all I got for you guys.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Chapman, you provided us with several emails from various property owners. Those were all positive in relation to this request? Did you get any negative requests or any objections to this request?
What I sent you is the positive or negative. I sent you all of them. I believe somebody did question whether or not it was, the measurements were accurate, as they say, but I mean, like any other property, like with the communications tower, we take we take what they said and go walk off the communications tower. I'll take the applicant's information as it is.
Okay.
Could we put the picture, the diagram back up that had, it was yellow where the,
It'd be number 5, man.
my only question is, it's showing a 50-foot right-of-way there on the road. Now, my understanding is it's a gravel road, correct?
It is a gravel road.
Is that within that fit, does any part of that structure fit within the 50-foot right-of-way?
No, sir, it's still sitting 12 feet off of that road right-of-way.
Okay, so your solid line there is the actual right-of-way? It's not the edge, it's not the shoulder of the road?
No, that's it right there.
Okay. That was my only concern.
Now, I had no one signed up to comment on this request. Is there anyone out there who wants to have something to say about the
I
request?
comment in favor of.
Anyone at all? Okay, so any other questions from the board then? Was this, Mr. Johnson, you purchased this house and it's been an existing house for a while and then you're adding on the carport?
Yes, I bought the house in December. Was doing some paint and stuff on the inside, scraping popcorn off the ceiling. Tornado comes in around April, took all the sheetrock down and everything else.
Okay,
So
so you're kind of rehabbing a place and this is
Yes,
part of the
exactly.
rehab is to add the carport in front?
yes, sir.
And you,
Well,
look to me like you have a
our-
garage, do you have a garage down below?
No, sir.
There's no garage back down on the lower level?
Had the roof not been replaced, this carport probably wouldn't have been built at that time, but anyway.
Okay, any other questions from the board then? Okay, we'll proceed to consider our criteria. First criteria is there are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to a particular piece of property. I have a motion in the affirmative,
So
please.
moved.
Second.
Any discussion? I guess where I come out is considering the location and the road, the way the road is situated, and given I think he made a genuine effort to do what was right and found out he hadn't quite made the right decision, I guess I could see where this would apply, so. Okay, we got a motion and a second. Could I have a vote? Call the vote, please. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 in favor, none opposed. Criteria 2, these conditions do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity. Could I have a motion in the affirmative?
So
please?
moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion. I think it's a unique set of circumstances. Any further discussion? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Passes 5 to 0. Criteria 3, because of these conditions, the application of this chapter to the particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. I see a lot of shaking of heads and
I think it's
there's no problem.
I think it's self-explanatory.
Okay, I'm just, want to make sure we cover this, cover the material. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Raise your hands. Carries 5 to nothing. Criteria number 4, the authorization of a variance will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent uses or to the public good, and the character of the district will not be harmed by the granting of the variance. Have a
So
motion,
moved.
please.
So
Second.
moved.
Second.
Discussion.
I think here with the, where we received so many favorable letters, I think that it's a given that there's no problem.
Yeah, where I come out is if there are a number of letters against, I think that'd be a major issue. But it sounds like, Mr. Johnson, you've done your homework and you've got people in favor of your proposal. Okay. Based on the, did we have?
We had
no vote.
We need a vote.
Thank you, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Do we have, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Raise your hand. Okay, passes 5 to nothing. Okay, now, based on the evidence presented to the board, do I hear a motion that the proposed variance be approved?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Passes 5 to nothing. Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for your service.
We took our water away.
That's right. Yeah, well, I don't think that's the case. So.
I mean, it's pretty obvious that he did.
Okay, item number 6 is a variance request for application VA 20-5. Ms. Fowler has already absented herself. She has a conflict of interest on this particular request, so it'll be up to the 4 of us. So, variance request for application number VA 20-5, a 15-foot variance from the required 25-foot setback from a right-of-way for construction of a new home. EMS number 052-01-01-057, as yet unaddressed parcel on Evergreen Ridge Road, Lot 17. The nearest addressed parcel being 339 Evergreen Road. Mr. Chapman, do you have any other comments on this issue?
I do not.
Can
Okay.
I ask Adam a question?
Yes.
Adam, is this normal for a 5-foot side setback?
Yes, sir.
And all, is that pretty much normal for everything in the county?
Yes, that should fair, within control-free district, yes, while it does vary by lot size, we have a kind of a sliding scale, the 5 foot is
Thank you.
fairly normal, yes, sir.
Just a point of clarification for me. Thank you.
You can get that changed in subdivisions who have covenants.
Yeah.
They may specify different setbacks. Okay, could you state your name, please, sir?
My name is Lauren Wise.
Lauren?
Wise, W-I-S-E.
Lauren Wise, okay. Ah, in the wrong place here. Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. We are under contract to buy the property on Evergreen Ridge Road. Evergreen Ridge Road is on the southern part of Lake Cherokee. It's a gravel road that's privately owned. It's a dead-end road, and it's bordered on the southern side of that road by state property. So you can only build on the lake side of that road. We are looking at two sort of limitations to this property that is why we're seeking a variance from the 25-foot setback to the 10-foot setback. The first is that there is an original bench cut put on the property that was supposedly meant for a house, but that bench cut, they put the septic system in that bench cut instead of a house. So that sort of limited some of the building site area. And then the second handicap is at the first 20 or so feet between the road going down towards the lake, there's a steep gradient of about 20 to 35 degrees. Past that point, it changes to about 45 to 55 degrees. So it's a very steep lot. It'd be very difficult to build on as you move down towards the lake. There are 3 other properties within close proximity of this property. They have all built up close to the road. They are also all built before the setback requirements were put in place for the county, which I believe was
2012.
Yeah, 2012. So they did not have to apply to that rule, and that's why we're seeking a variance, since there's very challenging sites all along this road, and there's already a precedent of all these properties being close to the road. It is a private road, very little traffic, only 2 houses past this property. We're asking for a little bit of relief in that 25-foot setback so that you can actually not have to put in some pretty massive retaining walls and grading and tall piers to try to get a house into that property. We have given you a couple of scenarios about house placements. These are just ideas to kind of show some examples of if we had to stay within the setback, we're looking at a 14-foot retaining wall on top of additional retaining for the house, versus if we could kind of move within the setback, we can do it with just retaining on the house without retaining for driveway or anything else as well. And as you can see, you can see the steepness of the lot in that section cut there. It's pretty steep out there, if you're not familiar with it. And we just had a survey done, so there's a survey in that package for you, which does note the bench site and the septic site. I think that's it from my end.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Wise. We may have questions for you in a little bit.
Sure.
Thank you. Okay, I have, let me see, make sure I'm in order here. Okay, I have 2 people signed up to provide input on this. Nancy Cochran.
Hi,
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. I am Nancy Cochran. I am the adjacent landowner, I guess it would be north-south, on the east side. I am on Lot 16, Block A, on Evergreen Ridge Road, which is 339.
That's
that
the
you were
339.
referencing. Correct. I do have a couple of points of interest in reference to the variance on that lot. On the extraordinary and exceptional conditions, Exhibit A that was in their packet, it shows keeping the 25-foot setback doesn't limit the desired square footage of the proposed structure, and it's the same square footage as shown in Exhibit B. It allows for more parking and more room for cars to be safely away from the road. And I'm not sure if you understand when he said it is a gravel road, it is a narrow one-lane gravel road. And the property on the right is owned by the National Forestry Service, not the state. And then also the surrounding lots exhibit similar site conditions, so there isn't any particular and specific site feature to the lot in question. So in short, exhibit does not reveal any extraordinary or exceptional conditions that support granting a variance. Point 2 are the circumstances a result of the applicant's actions. As a follow-up to the above points, where there are no exceptional conditions, it is clear the desire, not the need, for a variance is wholly and totally related to the applicant's desire to position the proposed structure in a manner to obtain a desired view for the location of the house, because I'm at the top of the crest. This house would be 5 feet right there when there's the two lots. Okay. Obtaining a certain view is not a factor that would support the granting of a variance, as it has nothing to do with correcting, for exceptional site conditions, and is solely the result of the applicant. How would the application of standards unreasonably restrict use of the property? Exhibit A clearly shows the proposed structure can be placed on the lot in a manner that doesn't restrict the size, nor does it restrict its use. It actually allows for more parking, and like I said, it is very narrow, and for parking that can be more safely positioned away from the road. The applicant's view in response to the questions and use of the phrase would make the lot essentially unbuildable simply isn't tenable an argument, because reviewing the documents and a lot is either buildable or it's not buildable. This lot can accommodate the structure and use as indicated by Exhibit A. And then will result of a variance not be a substantial detriment of adjacent use or public good. Granting the variance would position structure and parking closer to the road, which will likely encumber any future road improvements and utility work. And I can tell you right now, talking about setting precedents, this is, with this 25-foot setback, just about every lot that's not already, there's only 4 homes on the road, and just about every other piece of property, as Ms. Fowler knows, is for sale on that road, so it's going to set what you decide on. The applicant's argument citing current homes create a precedent is not relevant, and as non-conforming uses to the current homes do not constitute a precedent as so stated by Mr. Wise. Those structures were built before the county enacted any zoning standards and became non-conforming as a result of county action. A precedent begins to take shape only as a result of action when taken by the board. The applicant does not meet the required threshold as outlined in the county ordinance or in the state statute to grant a variance. It is my request that the staff recommend denying the variance application, that the board deny the variance application. And last but not least, may I?
Shirley?
When the survey that Mr. Ward performed on this property, if you take the original plat that was done, I'm not sure who even had that, but if you take the original plat and superimpose the current plat that Mr. Ward did, the lines do not match up. So, and I know that that is not the zoning committee's issue, but basing a variance off of incorrect, I just wanted you to be aware of that also. And that's all I have.
Thank you, ma'am. Do appreciate your input. Andrew McCoy.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Andrew McCall. I am here with my wife Deborah. We live at, we are building a new house at 345 Evergreen Ridge Road, which is the last property on that gravel road. I have conformed to the 25-foot setback. We have 16-foot concrete foundation walls, fully permitted, and I am in the middle of my build right now. So it has been a challenge personally that I am building the house myself. So getting materials and equipment and trucks up and down that road is a cumbersome feat. So one of the things that, you know, when I see this, if you don't mind, if we could go to the septic plan that is in the package versus what is shown on the drawing. That's a septic design which is typical throughout the state. You can see the one up top was the original design, but the one down below is the one that was actually put in place and shows where a house could be placed, which is much different than the far right-hand corner that is nudging right up to Ms. Cochran's property. I've seen the discrepancy in the pins out there that was set, and they're about 5-foot discrepancy, which would push this property right in Nancy's shoulder. So that's just a concern. I'm building a property, that has all of this stuff in it that I've complied to my 25-foot setback. So I would expect that everybody else would do the same, given the current laws and setback rules that we have. To go through a couple of the questions, the septic system, which I just showed you, shows two different variations of where it really is, because that is an actual document of the true location of an as-built drawing. The steep slope, I am 80 feet above water. I know exactly what it takes to build on a steep slope, and it can be built. I've been building for 35 years in this construction industry. So, question number 2 was not sure when the bench was cut, but before the septic system, but that is an actual document that shows where that system is. I think it would be a very difficult build to be 10 feet off the property, off that property line in the front for any vehicles to park there. Looking at the elevation of the actual building that is proposed lends itself to that view that Nancy was speaking about. And my other concern was if this property would be eventually used as a VRBO or some kind of rental property to obtain that beautiful view that we live in. And there's, like Nancy said, there's only 4 of us on that road. And that would be undue traffic. As far as, the road being very lightly traveled, we go to work every day, so, that's 2, 3, 4 times a day up and down the road for the individuals that do live there. And if you do see it in person, it's a tight road. It's very difficult to pass 2 vehicles. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Mr. Paul, thank you very much. Is anyone else who'd like to speak? Anyone who didn't sign up who'd like to speak?
Yes, I have one over here.
Yes, ma'am.
If I may, so they're together, this would be part of the rebuttal unless you're speaking against the project?
No.
Right, so you'll have a chance to talk to him if they ask for a rebuttal. Sorry, not to cut you off.
Okay, so we now have time for rebuttal by the applicant.
Thank you.
Mr. Watts.
Couple of points. Let's look at the septic quickly as number one. If you can, we can pull up that septic permit. I want to make sure this diagram is clear to everyone. You can see that bench cut where the septic is placed. That bench cut is the same that's on our survey. It's in the septic. So where they have the house, there is only about 30 feet between the road and that bench cut. So you really could not put a house above the bench without being in the setback. So that's one of the main reasons why we felt like trying to push the house off to the side so we could still maintain a setback off the road. Otherwise, we would be asking for almost a zero setback to get even a very narrow bar house above that bench cut. That's one thing. Two, I'm not sure where the prospect of the kind of view part came up. You can't really see the view from either location on that property. It's completely overgrown. You can see the view from the next door house, certainly. I think you would have an equal view anywhere within that property. It's an elevated property. We're actually about 90 feet plus from the road down to the lake, so it's pretty elevated. Certainly, we're not trying to establish a better view for the property. We could get a view in any location. We're really trying to consider the steepness of the lot, where the septic is and where that bench cut is. Those are all handicaps, and we had no control certainly over the bench cut, the septic, or the steepness. My wife and I are both architects, and we fully understand what it takes to build on steep properties. We do it every day. So we're more worried about, like, can we actually get a house within that lot at that narrow space between the bench and Nancy's house? We're trying to actually create a little bit of flexibility so we don't have houses crammed up together. That's one of the main reasons why we're looking at places that can't be on the road side of the bench cut. We really couldn't do that without asking for basically zero setback, and that would also be within the road easement. So we're trying to find a good compromise for all this. It is a very difficult lot, and I think anyone who lives on that road understands it's a difficult lot, which is exactly why all the houses are right on the road. And if you look at our pictures of the three closest houses, you can see they're all up on the road, and that's for a specific reason. It's very steep out there. So I think those are the two kind of main considerations that were brought up in terms of why we're kind of trying to find a middle ground so we can get a house on this property that's reasonable, and looking at the existing conditions that we really had no control over. So that's my sort of rebuttal to that. And I don't know would she be allowed?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know which drawing it is. The gray site plan.
Can you pull up the Exhibit D? Is that the one you want? The site section?
Site plan.
Site plan. I don't know what page it is, Adam, I'm sorry.
Just look up here and tell me.
Keep going down, scroll down, scroll down, scroll down, there.
There. Nope, next one.
Next one, the plan.
There you
One more. Yeah, perfect.
Just if you see in this photo where the existing septic field is, we would basically love to put our house in the center of the property. But as you can see where that existing septic field is, there's no way we could possibly do that without getting a reduction in the setback. So, preferably, we would rather have our house centered in the lot, so we're buffered, like our neighbors are buffered on both sides. But, where the existing septic field does not allow us to do that without asking for a variance.
I have a question for you that pertains right there, if I could. Is it an option, to put the house, to move the septic field somewhere else and put your house where it was originally intended?
So if you look at where we're kind of showing the house location, that's the steepest part of the lot. And that's really where the house is, and further down it changes to about 45 to 55 degree slope. So I think it would be a challenge to get septic in there because there's also no native soil. So they'd have to get down to a native soil in order to put in a legal septic system in that area because of the road overfill and kind of all that. So I think actually getting a septic into that area would be a hardship, especially if there's a functioning septic in virgin soil on the property. And I'm not
Help me
sure
understand the two
about,
different soils. I'm not sure what you're saying with the difference.
So, in order to install a perking septic system, it can't be in disturbed fill or soil. And basically, everything kind of where the house is, up near the road, is all disturbed fill from the road when they cut out the road. So there's no like native virgin soil there to put a perk in. And I'm not honestly sure about the current septic requirements, but in North Carolina, you have to have a regular system plus a repair field now, so it's a double size system, so that would kind of take up twice the actual space that this one's taking up, which was put in before those requirements.
And it can't go below the benched area because that's all filled from where they cut in the septic.
Right, so wherever that's all trash too, unfortunately.
It appears the septic permit was issued in 93. Current requirement is going to require them to have a .57 acre lot. So they're not, they can't go back with it being .54 acres and obtain a new permit, according to DHEC.
Okay, that's helpful.
So what's there is there. If it is changed or moved and has to be re-permitted, they can't get a permit. So that, that does mean they need to use that septic field, okay?
Okay.
Yeah,
That's helpful.
yeah.
That's why I'm
That is
just trying to
helpful, thank you. I
cover the
didn't know that
territory here
either.
and what the options are, that's all.
I have a question. If it was built back in 1993, what makes you think that that's going to be a serviceable septic system today?
Well,
When you consider the growth going into your
Right.
leaching field and all.
I mean, that's a great question. Since we don't own the property, there's only so much we can do. This is all part of our due diligence to purchase the property. So we have located the tank and know the tank's in good shape, and we think we know where one of the drain lines are, but certainly that's gonna have to be an investigation.
But in the case, a hypothetical case, what would happen then if you found that the leach field wasn't usable because it had to be, because of the growth and so forth that's penetrated down into the leach field? Wouldn't you have to go back for a whole new permit then? No.
I think it can be grandfathered, but
Okay, I'm just curious, okay.
that's another great,
It could be grandfathered, that was a question I had, because it, if you landed up having to go back for a permit, then becomes a moot point.
So you can redo all the drain fields without the permit.
Okay.
They cannot necessarily get to move the actual location of the tank.
Yeah.
They're actually going to have to get another permit, which is going to require .57 acres.
If you go look at the site itself, the bench area is really pretty,
Where is the tank?
bench area is pretty void of vegetation and
Yeah.
trees. There's no, they don't have big pine trees and whatnot growing up in the bench area.
the tank is
Am I
sort of on
representing that right?
There's definitely some smaller trees, but no large pine trees.
I understand there's some undergrowth.
So
The tank is sort of at the east end of the in that bench cut.
actually specifically do the permitting process based on the house location. So they can still move the house to here, but this is set in stone now.
I just wonder where where would the tank, could you show me where the tank is on the other?
Sure, if you-
No, on your other plan, where the actual tank is on the
Yeah,
property?
can I walk over here and?
Sure.
Yeah, go for it. They can't see it though.
Oh, you can't
I go
see
to the
it.
projector screen.
Oh, perfect. So right now, the tank is right here,
That's right.
right in this kind of narrow part of the cut. And then the field comes out.
Okay. So they actually could move that a little bit, that one,
Okay, do we have any more questions for Mr. Wise?
I think Adam's got a question.
If I may, and I apologize
Mr.
for
Chairman.
interjecting here. So the 0.57 acres, that was something DHEC did because when they first started, they couldn't, just manpower issues. They didn't want little nickel and dime lots everywhere. 0.57 acres is actually not part of their regulation. They will size a tank to a house regardless of the size of the lot. If it perks, it perks. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because I don't want you all to make a decision on that. So the county actually recently removed, 2.5 years ago, removed their minimum lot size. The county's minimum lot size of 0.57 acres because it was never a real regulation. They just always enforced the 0.57 acres.
It's been a misconception all along. It's come up in other venues, so. I understand what Mr. Chapman is
They
saying.
could go resize the lot and get it, it would just be on the size of the house. So they parked a number of bedrooms actually.
Number of bedrooms.
Bedroom, yeah. Okay,
Thank you very much.
any other questions from members of the board? We kind of strayed around here and, but I want to make sure that everyone's got their questions answered. Okay. Let's move to consideration then. Criteria number 1, there are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to the particular piece of property. Motion in the affirmative, please.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion. Discussion, please.
Excellent. No.
I've never been,
A pregnant pause.
I've never had anybody beg me to talk.
We owe these folks some discussion.
Well, no, I can see it both ways, to me, let's say they follow the setback. And that would be Exhibit A, correct? So now you've got a 14-foot drop-off that close to the road, to a parking area. And it is a narrow road. I know the road.
Yep.
Does that provide a safety concern as well, potentially? So, to me, that's also a consideration. So I do think there are circumstances that could make this have some extraordinary, exceptional conditions to the lot.
I agree. It's the nature of the lot there, and
Yeah.
it is so steep. You got a problem doing what's right there. Any other discussion on this point? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. There are 4, no opposed. Element number 2, these conditions do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity. I have a motion in affirmative, please.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Okay, discussion, please.
What I heard from the other speakers is that probably they've kind of ran into the same thing. Of course, on a lot of these mountain lakes like this, you've got the big drops. You've got the topography is pretty horrendous most of the time. So as far as not generally applying to the property in the vicinity, I think that probably most of this property is pretty characteristic of what's there.
Yeah. My concern is, it applies to all the properties along this road.
Yeah.
It's a major problem for them, and people in the past have addressed it in ways that satisfied them, brought their houses close to the road before we had regulations that prohibited that.
The only caveat I would put on that is the fact of where the septic tank, we've already talked about, they're kind of locked in the box as far as what they can do. Now, I don't know if any of the other folks ran into the same kind of thing when they built on their lots. But that's the only unique thing I've seen so far, as far as what the other lots would have. Just be the proximity of the septic tank had already been in.
That would be the only determinant factor.
Well, Mike, yeah, I don't know, we'll come out on this, we're saying it applies to all the lots along the way, and there've been other houses put in that way. So we're saying it applies to all of them. How can we say it does not apply? That's my concern.
Yeah.
I mean, we're heading toward whether we're going to approve this variance or not. And I'm trying to think of a way to, what I sense is our kind of our feelings on this.
Really,
Got any way out of this, Mr. Chapman? You have any advice?
The only
Sorry, the microphone's broken.
The only way out is for him to build it with a proper setback, which is possible. And I guess we have the other issue here is one gentleman came in and said, hey, I'm building right now, Yeah.
and I'm adhering to the setback.
Yeah.
As I recall looking at that, at his particular lot, I think he's got more flat area up on top than this one does. So he's probably able to do that. But,
Thinking.
These conditions do not generally apply to other projects.
You know, I still go back to a 14-foot retaining wall if he adheres to that setback. And I'm not worried about him having to build a retaining wall further out to build his house on. Okay, that's part of building in the mountains.
Yeah.
Right.
My problem is, as I see it, and I could be wrong, is that how far is that retaining wall off the road? On Exhibit A.
I think it's only, that gets him back to the 25 feet.
Yes, that gets him back to the 25 feet.
Yeah.
Keep going up, the next slide up, or even, how?
You can see it.
Yeah, let's go back down to the other one, please. So, where we've got this 14-foot retaining wall, how far is that off the actual road?
We did not scale it, but I would say that's only about 7 or 8 feet off. It's roughly, I don't know exactly. I mean, this is all being driven by car and then, where that.
Yeah, and so if two cars meet at night, I mean, it could, my thought is that, what happens?
You can't get two cars through that road at night.
Sorry, man.
I have a question, if I could.
Sure.
Sir, what's your intended use for this property?
This will be our retirement home.
Pardon me, if I may, we've already started the voting process.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We're locked into this. We did get some other information because we needed a quantitative thing, but we've kind of moved on past this. If you all would like to continue this, just know that I've said this out loud.
Okay.
One thing to consider in what you're talking about, your retaining wall, as you know, as everybody's aware of, that's lived on a gravel road, it's gonna keep migrating over and over and over. So it may be 7 feet away now, and in 2 years, it may be 3 feet away, and then before long, it's just, it just kind of keeps going.
And I know it's not a 2-lane road, but people do travel back and forth in each direction.
Right.
My biggest concern would be somebody going over the retaining wall. Even, that's just what sticks out in my mind. So to me, that is something that it sets this apart.
That's a good point.
Well, I guess if you, as I like, the way I can reconcile my view is vicinity is, can be quite wide-ranging. And the other properties in the vicinity, in the area around that lake are relatively flat and would have no problem with adhering to the current setback rules. This particular property, there's a problem.
Do we know that the other properties are flat? Or are we assuming that they are?
Well, I'm familiar with the area, and there are flat properties on the other side, like the other side of the lake, it's very flat.
Very flat. How about with the ones adjacent to this property?
No, this road is pretty much all very
Yeah.
steep. And the way the property, the way the existing houses have been put in there, they're close to the road.
But they're within the 25-foot setback,
Yeah, they
right?
wouldn't meet the 25 setback.
They would not?
Would not meet the setback, no. No, Ms. Cochran's house, for instance, sits right, very close to the road. The lady who spoke earlier. This, 339 right here,
Yeah.
sits, and we have a picture of it in here. Sits right up next to the road.
Next to the road.
And there's a house down here, 327, sits right next to the road. So. Okay, we're ready to consider this? Okay. We have a motion and second. All those in favor, raise your right hand, our left hand, say aye. Okay, vote is 4, no opposed. Thank you for your patience on that one, gentlemen. Criteria number 3, because of these conditions, the application of this chapter to a particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? I think we've covered it.
I think we covered it.
All in favor? 4 in favor, no opposed. Number 4, the authorization to a variance will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent uses or to the public good, and the character of the district will not be harmed by the granting of the variance.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. I guess I have a couple of comments. Number 1, we should not be considering what their future use of this property might be. I mean, it's their property, they're building a house, we really can't be concerned about what their future use is going to be. And,
The only reason I was interested in that was I think one of the speakers mentioned that it might be a rental. If it were a rental, then that would be a substantial difference from a retirement home in terms of the amount of traffic and cars. With the way these rentals operate, you'll land up with 2,400 square foot house with about 18 people in it and about 10 cars. And it could be a major problem on that road.
and again, I don't know how, I don't think we're in a position to consider that at all. I understand what you're saying.
That was why I'm explaining why I asked the question.
I understand, yeah. Okay, any other input on this one? Okay, all in favor of the motion? 4 in favor, none opposed. Based on the evidence presented to the board, do I hear a motion that proposed variance be approved?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? I have 4 in favor, none opposed. Do I have a motion we adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?